So now I'm going to drag in another instance of countries Europe so that we can make our bar charts. So when I drag this in again, it's going to come in with a default kind of gross looking color with a black border. And I don't actually want it to be symbolized at all. I just want to put charts on top. So when I right click and go to my properties now, I go to my style tab, and instead of any kind of symbology here, I'm going to say no symbol. So if I hit no symbol and I hit apply, great. What I've done is I've added a layer, and right now I've got my layer underneath, that's the allies and belligerents, and that's showing through. And the layer on top, which I haven't named yet, this is going to be my Jewish population before and after histogram. So let's go ahead and label that. I'm going to say rename, and let's call this 19, actually let's just call it before after underscore Jewish population. And that's kind of a nice quick way to just see what we're talking about. And right now there's no symbology at all, so it doesn't show even if we turn on and off. But now we're going to go add those charts to it. So I go to properties, I go to diagrams, because we're actually adding a diagram on top. And right now there's no diagrams, but what I want to do is I want to add a histogram, right? The pie chart is the way you do the proportional symbols, and the choropleth, like I mentioned before, is under style for graduated, but we're going to just do the histogram map right now. So histogram, and then, okay, some different options. It looks a little confusing, but we're not going to get bent out of shape just yet. The first thing we want to do is add the attributes that we care about visualizing. So we go to attributes, and I want to just show the raw number, the Jewish population in the 30s, add, and the Jewish population in the 50s, or 1950, and I add that. And just for the sake of visual clarity, I want to make these the same color, but a slightly different version of the same color. So let's see. So far we've used blues and red and gray. We're going to have to go with yellow or green or something like that, or brown. Colors have a lot of connotations associated with them, so be careful when you do this kind of thing. But I think what I want to do is I want the Jewish population to be, let's try dark-ish green for before and a lighter green for after. So maybe this is our, we just start with the 30s, and we'll start with a darker green. So go ahead and double-click that. And a good green color is usually around a 120 or something like that. 120. And let's make it desaturated so it's not so crazy. I'm going to make it maybe 50% desaturated. And then maybe 50% bright. So it's just kind of this dark, desaturated green. That's not too bad. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. And our lighter green, mine came in kind of by default, but if you don't know what to do with yours, somewhere between 80 and 120. Let's try 100. Let's try 150, and we'll make it a little brighter because this is the part of the map that we want to stick out. 175, 85. That's fine. Let's try that. Okay. So before I say apply, I want to know how it's going to visualize these bars. And to do that, you can go to size. And the size is like right now it's not even basing the size of those bars off of anything. It has the attributes, and these are the kind of the categories, but how is it going to make them different sizes? So from looking at the data, I remember that Poland had a really large population. So I want that to be kind of the maximum kind of number, or the maximum length that it'll draw the rest of the bars based off of that. So under JP 30s, because I remember that was the pre-war population of Jews was highest in Poland at that point. I go JP 30s, and I can find that maximum value, which is, it's around 3 million. So that's a pretty high number. And what I'm doing here is I'm saying make that highest number 50 millimeters, I believe is what it is. right? Millimeter 50. So I've told it the max value is this. Make that max value approximately this. I could choose a different number in here and it would still scale them all accordingly, but depending on how you change this number and change this number, the bars will change size. They'll still be relative to each other, so you're not lying, but you have to kind of decide at what scale you want the height of the bars to be. So I find that taking the max and then making that max something digestible, usually somewhere around 50 tends to be pretty good, but it depends on what you're doing. Let's just hit apply and see what happens now. So I say apply, and now we've got ourselves a thematic map. Okay, and now is when we judge very harshly our bad decisions that we made. I don't really like the green anymore. I feel like there are too many colors going on in the map, and the green doesn't communicate anything to me, really. It doesn't make sense. I also want them to be bigger. There's too many flat kind of, we don't get any variation, really. We just see a lot of these flat things, and then Poland is outside of Poland. I don't know if you can tell, but it's not really placed well. I want Poland, I want it to be so that the base of it is right on Poland. Do you see what I mean? I want it to be kind of placed better. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make these bars bigger. So instead of making this maximum value somewhere around 50 millimeters, I want to make the max one, let's say, make it closer to, let's go 85. And let's change the colors here. I'm actually going to go with, let's make this black, and let's make this a dark gray so that we can see the differences. And it has to be, I want the gray to be darker than the neutral here. And I just think getting rid of the colors of the population is going to make it just look better overall, probably. So we'll go with like a 25%, you know, kind of towards black, go from black to white. That'll be good. I think I actually want the width of these to be a little skinnier too. They don't need to be so wide. So let's make it 3 wide. And I think that's going to be pretty good. And the placement, I said I didn't want it around the centroid. I think I want it to be over centroid. Let's just see here. Let's just see what over centroid does. I think that might be right. So let's say apply and see what happens. Okay. In general, I like it being placed over the centroid. The bar charts are more squarely in the middle for France and England, Germany, kind of all the other countries look not too bad. The Poland one is troubling though, right? So Poland is has such a vastly larger Jewish population in 1939, and it's this change between these two that I really want to see. I don't like it because I feel like the base of this chart looks like it's all the way down in Yugoslavia. So I think I'm going to make 2 changes. One is that I want to manually place this Poland bar chart. And the second thing I'm going to do is I actually think I'll change this second one from a dark gray to a white, just so that we can very quickly see the differences. I don't really like this dark gray anymore. So this is what cartography is about, and it might be frustrating to watch in the video, but it's all about this kind of synthetic, you know, oh, what looks good? You do one thing, you go back and change other things, and it's kind of circuitous, but it's an important process in design, is knowing how to kind of keep editing and figuring out when things are done. So the first thing I'll do is I'll go back to properties, and I'm going to just change that to white. So I go back to diagrams, attributes, and change this to white. Okay. Okay, there we go. I like that. That's a higher contrast, and it brings our attention to the disparities, actually, I think, a lot quicker. So I like using it kind of in the general plan. The color is for the base map and kind of these muted palette, and then the strong black and white is sitting on top, and that's kind of where we focus. But that was the easy part. Changing colors is always just a couple of clicks away. What I really wanted to do is I wanted to manually place Poland's bar charts. And to do that, what I'm going to have to do is make a layout in Print Composer, which is the way we put this onto a piece of paper so that we can add a legend and a title and boxes and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to manually do that in Print Composer. And when I do that, I'm going to trace this exact size of this bar chart and then manually place it. But then what I'm going to have to do after that is go back and update my map, my current map, to get rid of Poland here. I'm going to have to actually go back and kind of delete this from the data set so that it only shows up in Print Composer. So the idea is that we have kind of our map composer, which we actually make the map that is going to show up in Print Composer, and then Print Composer is kind of a layout view where we add the map, but we can also add a whole bunch of other stuff. I think it'll become clear in a second. So go up to Project, New Print Composer, and this is going to be called, let's just call it histogram map. Okay, so histogram map comes up, and the default is not letter. It's not 8.5 by 11. It's, I think, A4. Yeah, which is this is kind of developed by Germans and Europeans, so it's in a different system. But so you go to Composition, Presets, and let's go down to ANSI A, which is the letter 8.5 by 11. So click that, and then click this button over here. It says Add New Map, and it's kind of a funny icon. It's not really, doesn't really make that much sense, but hit Add New Map, and try to line it up as best you can with this corner over here, and go 0, 0. And we'll go all the way over here. Okay, there we go. And so our map's in there. It looks pretty good, but maybe I want to recenter it so that the center of the map, kind of the Europe, is a little closer to the center. I can go up here and grab this tool, which is Move Item Content, and I can click that, and then click and drag and recenter this somewhere in there, perhaps. Okay, and if you wanted to adjust kind of the zoom of the map, how close in or out we are, you could go to Item Properties, and the best way is to just adjust the scale. And the scale right now is approximately 1 to 26 million or 27 million. And it's kind of confusing, but just remember that if you want the extent to cover a smaller geographic area, then you need a larger scale. So that means, and it's confusing because a larger scale, you would enter a smaller number here, right? The smaller the fraction, the larger the fraction, like 1 to 500, would be a very, very small extent. A larger number here means a smaller fraction, which is a very small scale, and it means a large extent, right? So 1 to 20 million is going to be a regional map of like a country or continent or something, and 1 to 500 is almost an architectural scale or a town, something like that. So anyway, I'm not going to adjust it. I think it looks okay. But what we want to do now is actually, I have to be careful not to just click and drag because I have my map set up the way I want it. So I'm actually going to just lock my map in over here in my items so that I don't accidentally jostle it, and I can start doing other things in this layout. So I hit lock, and you'll notice that the frame goes away and it's kind of locked in there now. And what I really want to do is I want to trace this and make a couple of bars that are going to be in this layout as kind of, we're going to mimic the base map and have a feature, 2 rectangles, to duplicate these and drag them. And then we'll go back to the map and get rid of them in the map and then update it so that our updated map is just all of the countries without Poland, and then on our base map here we'll have the proper bar charts in the proper place. So to do that, it's kind of confusing, but what I'll do is go over here and add shape, and I'm going to add a rectangle. And this first rectangle I'm going to make is this guy here. So let's try it here. I'm going to go add rectangle. There we go. Sorry. Click and drag. You could zoom into the map to make it a little more accurate if you want. But there it is, and I want it to, under item properties here, change the style because this one is black. So the fill is black. Okay. Okay. And now I'm going to click and drag that up here to Poland. And I could say copy and paste if I wanted to. Actually, no, I don't want to do that. I want to just trace a new one. I can't copy and paste it. I want to go and make a new rectangle. And we're going to just draw the little tiny rectangle over here. That's pretty good. And this one is white, and it is the proper style. So now, I'm going to put that up here, and line it up there, and use the arrow keys and scooch it over. And that's pretty good. It's actually a little skinny. I don't know if you can see. I didn't quite trace it very well. So I'm going to widen it just a bit here. You could zoom in too to the map to make it a little bit more accurate, but I think that's pretty good. So I have these vaguely where I want them. I might select them both and scooch them over so they're in the center of Poland like that, and they don't cover the Baltic states there. So I'm kind of happy with this. What I'm going to go do now is get rid of this other one, this one that was on the centroid, right? So this big bar, the computer said the center of that bar is in the middle, and it centered that bar in the center of Poland. But what I've done instead is decided to put the base of the chart in Poland. So now we go, we're going to minimize this map composer layout and go back here. And I actually want to make a brand new shapefile, I think, so I don't mess this one up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the attribute table. Okay, so open that attribute table. I can select Poland. And I'm going to actually, I want everything except for Poland. So I'm going to inverse my selection, invert selection. And I've got everything except Poland highlighted. And I'm going to save this as a new layer. So I'm making a brand new shapefile. So right click here, say save as. And now I'm going to save only my selected features because I'm making a brand new one. And an Esri shapefile, and I'm going to call this new file under data. I'm going to call this no Poland. Save. Okay. The default should come in. And I can clear the selection now, which is this button up here, deselect features from all layers. And there's my new file, and I don't want to have to go through and re-figure out all of the symbology for this new file. So I can I shut off it visualizing here too, but I can copy this style here. I don't remember seeing me do that in class. Copy style here and paste it on no Poland, and we should get the exact same thing just without Poland. Let's see if it works. Okay, there we go, looking good. So now to update this, I can go back to my print composer here and hit refresh. We're going to see this big thing disappear, right? So like that, and refresh. Okay, there we go, and it's gone. So just so as you know, in theory, you could do that with all of the ones that you don't like, right? If you don't like the position of any of these individual bar charts, let's say you don't like this conflict here, you could trace one of them and do the same exact thing and make a file that doesn't include whatever country that you want and copy and paste the style, just like we did. But I think this is pretty good for our map, and I think the only other things I'm going to show you right now are you can add text blocks, right, or labels, and you can add, we could add more rectangles if we wanted to make a title block, right? So we could say add rectangle like this, and perhaps we make it, you know, slightly transparent. Let's make it 20% transparent so it looks pretty. And then we, in the title block here, we can take this text and click right here. And whenever you edit text, you do it in the item properties thing over here. So we could say, okay, I finished typing it, but I have to actually make the text box a little bigger so it can see everything. Okay, we can make it the font a little bigger. 14 maybe. Okay. Okay, that's not too bad. And then you can kind of fuss around with everything. And I'd encourage you, this is a very, again, very creative process. So I would encourage you to experiment with all of these different things, right? We can add a scale bar if we want to, though with a conic projection or just at this level, it's not going to be that meaningful probably. It's more thematic. It's not trying to help people navigate. You know, you could add a legend here. We can add one right here and just click it, and then it comes in and it's going to add everything that we have on our entire map layout. So to edit the legend, you can get rid of this auto update and then just delete everything we don't need. So I think maybe the only thing we want in the legend is that. We could get rid of, get rid of everything else just so that it's not confusing. So, you might just do that, and just as a starter, that might be easier. And then we can, we all know it's a legend, get rid of that. And get rid of that. And let's see if we can get it out of that group. There we go. Yeah, so I think you get the idea a little bit. It's a hard process because there's so much you have to decide, and then you have to kind of make decisions on what's okay and what's not okay to do. But I think you'll get the hang of it. So if you do that, that's not too bad. I think the one thing you might struggle with here is how do we represent quantity? Maybe we add another legend, right? And we might want to physically draw that legend instead of doing the automatic legend, right? Instead of saying add legend, we might make bars of different sizes and then add text that says what those bars are and that kind of thing. And we can add labels. If you need help with this print composer, let me know, and maybe we can put together kind of more of a layout video, but I don't want to wear you out too much. So explore it first, and then if you need help, please get in touch with me. So okay, I hope all is well. I'll see you soon.